Have you ever spent 3.5 years building something only to lose it all in 30 days? Rocco did. After 3.5 years clean, serving and leading, he ended up relapsing hard. But God wasn't done with his story. This conversation that you're getting ready to see is raw, powerful, and full of grace. Let's get into it. Rocco, how's it going, man?
Good, man.
Good. You're just a few days away from finishing your time here in Virginia, heading back to North Carolina to move in with some family, get a job and all that, man. Like, what's going on in your heart right now?
You know, just 6 months ago, I was in such a bad spot spiritually that, you know, I didn't really know if I was going to be able to get back to this spot. You know, it's not tough or it's not easy, you know, laying it all down and coming back into a program and stuff. And, you know, but the Lord has just worked wonders with me while being here. And it's been such a blessing to just be able to get out of the world and, you know, get back in the Word and just, get that relationship back right with Christ, you know, and work on myself. So with that being said, I'm super blessed and grateful because, you know, I don't deserve it. It's all Jesus. And yeah.
You've been through a Teen Challenge program before.
Yep.
So what brought you to Teen Challenge years ago the first time?
So yeah, I've been down the road of addiction for 17 years, basically all my adulthood and most of my teens. And it was like being on a merry-go-round, man. Just same thing, in and out of jails, you know, charge after charge, arrested after arrested, in and out of hospitals, overdose, you know, just the same thing, but worse and worse every time. And I finally got popped, and the court wasn't playing with me that time. And, you know, they hit me with a pretty heavy sentence, and, you know, I had to lay it down for a while. And that was really the first time in my addiction that I had any long stint to really clear my head and really get some time under my belt, sober time, and really reflect on what I had done and what I had been doing for the last 17 years and you know, kind of evaluate the wreckage through sober eyes, you know.
Yeah. Because
when you're out there running, you know, you don't have time to do that. You know, you're just chasing the next high. And so I was there for roughly a year, and, you know, I was at a point where my family wanted nothing to do with me. They weren't talking to me for good reason.
You were in jail for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, they didn't talk to me almost the whole time I was in there. And, you know, I was at rock bottom. I mean, you know, there was no light at the end of the tunnel that I could see. And, you know, facing more charges and it was so much uncertainty, and it was so much to deal with. And when I was in that jail, you know, there was a great group of godly men in there that were seeking the Lord. And, you know, I had become pretty tight with them, and I remember they would, you know, I would sleep most of the day and stuff, and they'd come wake me up out of the bunk and stuff, like, hey man, come on, you know, you got to get in the Bible study, prayer circle, all these things. And you know, those little things right there, you don't realize it, but, you know, that's God working through them, planting those seeds, and that's what it did. And you know, with being in there a whole year and getting into the Word and stuff, you know, I finally figured out, like, maybe this Jesus is what I need. maybe this is what I've been searching for forever.
Yeah.
And so that led me to the end of my sentence, and my mom had just started kind of talking to me a little bit towards the end to kind of feel out what direction I was going to be doing when I got out and stuff. And I kind of cried out for help and was like, I need something. I've done the 30-day, the 90-day programs, secular programs, the detoxes, just about everything. But my sister had found this place called Dare Challenge and down the Outer Banks, and they sent me a brochure of what it was all about and everything involved and all this. And I remember reading that thing, and it said it was 8 to 12 months long, and I was like, well, not going to that. That's crazy. I did a year in jail.
I need more than 30 days, but not a year.
Yeah, I was like, I just did a year in jail. And, my mom told me, what's different from all the other programs is Jesus is the center of this, And so, I prayed on it. I talked to some of those guys in those Bible studies about it and stuff. And something I didn't know then, but I know now it was the Holy Spirit, but something was nudging me to just do it. It was like, if you want a big change in your life, you got to make a big change. And so that's what I did, man. I committed to it, and I told myself, I said, no matter what I do or whatever, if I don't get anything else out of this, I'm going to at least complete it, because I'm famous for not completing anything. And so that's what I did, man, and it led me there. And I remember 2.5 months into it, dude, I was so ate up with just like hate and my girlfriend, she had been cheating on me the whole time, lying to me, and just all this stuff that I found out towards the end. And I remember I went in there and I was just ate up inside. And about 2.5 months into it, man, things just started changing, bro. I mean,
so let's fast forward to you go to jail, you have this experience, the Lord worked on you clearly through Dare Challenge. If you had to pinpoint maybe either what was missing, or maybe personally what was missing, or what shifted when you left, that kind of led back to relapse, right? Like what took place there? This moment right here, this is why we started Team Hope, because relapse doesn't have to be the end of the story. Your monthly support helps us reach guys like Rocco with discipleship, community, and hope in Jesus. Join Team Hope today and be a part of somebody's comeback.
The biggest thing I would say was I didn't stay plugged in. That group of people that I had grown with while I was there for those 3.5 years, spiritual brothers, church family, all those things that the Lord helped me build, I did not stay connected to that. And, I can only speak for myself, but somebody that was so radically stuck in addiction, I know for myself I have to be exactly that energy or more towards Jesus. So, and we all know how life can get you. You start working, you start, doing all these things, and next thing you know, it's like you're sitting there telling yourself, I don't have time to go to church, and I don't have time to make it to the Bible study. I'm tired, and all the things of the world. And, this last time, man, I learned, and I learned the hard way. That is the most important thing. All the other stuff comes later.
So how long was it before you cut the community off, basically, right? Kind of distanced yourself till you ended up relapsing again? How long did that process take for you?
So it was roughly about 5 months. It wasn't long.
Okay.
And when I did relapse, it it was definitely a condemnation thing. You know, it was, you know, it wasn't just kind of dip my toe in here or there. It was I dipped my toe in, and then that shame and guilt came upon me. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, I was jumping off the diving board head first.
So that's all taking place. What made you pick up the phone to reach out for help?
So, you know, the old saying is, it never gets better. And it, you know, they always say, you pick up where you left off. So that's basically what happened with me, man, was, like I said, I didn't dip my toe in. I was right back where I left off 3 years ago. Yeah. And it got bad. What the Lord built in 3.5 years, I tore it all down in 30 days. I ended up back in jail, another charge. Family, you know, upset with me. Homeless. Blew through all my money. The prodigal son story.
Yeah. Yeah. How was your relationship with your family during all that? Like, because I imagine there was quite a bit of progress in rebuilding, right? Some of those relationships, the 3.5 years. I mean, at that moment, like, what was taking place? Like, you know, everything's falling apart. You just said, like, I destroyed everything that I built 3.5 years. How did that impact your family dynamic and whatnot?
I have the best family in the world. I know this time had to have been very rough on them, just because of how far I had came, and then how quick I had threw it all away. Yeah. So I know this was very tough for them. And luckily, by God's grace, you know, it was only, I shouldn't say only, but it was about 30-day relapse. And then that's when I realized it's time to get back up on the horse, you know, and start seeking God again. And so there, in that 30 days, you know, they had to cut me off, you know, because I was ripping and running, doing my own thing again, acting a fool. And you know, they've got to guard their own heart, you know, at some point.
Yeah.
Because.
So how would you describe, if you had to describe what they were experiencing during that time, would you say it was discouragement, anger, still believing, you know, maybe a combination of all of it? Like, how would you describe what you were experiencing, like what emotions they were showing you?
So I would have to say probably a little bit of everything, but definitely probably a lot of disappointment and just confusion. I'm sure they were confused. I mean, and I was confused, and I was the one out there, you know. And you know, my family, my sister, and them, they had showed me so much trust by, you know, allowing me to move in with them and help me out in that aspect. And so I'm sure there was a lot of anger too, you know, righteous anger. You know, they had every right to be angry at me, and I'm sure a lot of concern and worry too, because, like I said, I was out there pretty hard this last time, and you know, so that sat on me pretty heavy when I first got into the program this time, because it just, I mean, yeah, you come that far in 3.5 years, and then you dive that deep back in it, and you know.
Yeah. So how's, like, in this process, the last 6-7 months, like, what does healing look like? I mean, have you made any progress in your relationships? I mean, I know you're moving in with a family member, so I'm assuming that's a good sign, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how's that looking? Like, what does the healing process look like with you guys as you've been talking over the last few months?
So, you know, as the Lord does, man, he's so good. He is completely restored my relationship with my mother, my father, my grandmother, my dad, or my sister, my brother-in-law, my nephews. You know, they were kind of pretty upset with me too. But, you know, manning up, admitting I was wrong, and taking the steps to get in this program and do the work, you know, and, you know, God working in my heart and also working in them too, you know. Yeah, man, they've just showed me complete forgiveness, and they just want to see me do better and be the best I can, you know, and that's I'm super blessed to have that in my life, because I don't know where I'd be without any of them.
Yeah. You said your family cut you off for right reasons, right? During that time when you were out running hard.
Yeah.
If your mom could have wrote you a letter in the middle of that season, what do you think it would have said?
Oof. That's a good question. I think it would have said, you know, Rocco, I love you, but just know while you're living this lifestyle, I can't live it with you. I can't walk it with you. So until you figure it out, you know, just know I love you, but don't come to me when everything crumbles.
Yeah. It's interesting when we put ourselves in the shoes of the people that we hurt, right, the most.
Yeah.
And man, it's such a sensitive thing to talk about, but like, man, I think you start to get to this place of clear mind, clear thinking, and you realize it, and then like we just kind of we recognize, and then we try to do the best we can to repair and restore. You know, we can't go back and redo things, but it's such a huge thing, man. So let's talk about this season of restoration. You've come through TC, getting ready to go home. What would you say is different in this season with you versus any former season, spiritually, emotionally, physically, whichever? Like, but if you just had to describe what's different in this season.
You know, I put a lot of pressure on myself when I got out of the program the first time, before my relapse, and I almost think it was kind of it wasn't healthy type of pressure. You know, I'm not saying go put yourself at a bar, you know what I mean, but you know, I almost made it to where you know, if somebody was smoking a cigarette or drinking a beer near me, I was like, you know, I can't even be around them, or you know, I can't even look at them, or type of deal. And you know, that led me to a lonely place kind of in my head, because the reality is the stuff is just about everywhere, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that kind of led me to like isolation, I guess you could say. And
That's good.
and it was a lonely place in spiritually, and you know, and with that pressure, you know, it made me fold in a way. Yeah. And so this time around, you know, I'm really stepping into, you know, God has delivered me. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't have the cravings to go get high and stuff like that. And, you know, I have to live as a new creation, like the Bible tells me. You know, I have to walk in that. And so, you know, this time around, you know, I've definitely got my boundaries up and stuff, you know, but I'm also not living as a statue. You know, a Christian statue, if you will, you know what I mean? Because, that kind of got me last time, you know, and next thing you know, it's like I don't have any, you know, I can't even talk to anyone, I feel like, about anything because, you know, and so this time around, you know, I'm be a little more easier on myself and, you know, just keep myself plugged in and stay around the right people, you know, definitely stay in like CR. I'll go back to my Bible studies, my church, stuff like that. But yeah.
Recovery is so interesting, especially discipleship programs, because rules and boundaries are necessary, right? For helping us hold it together when we're not strong enough to hold it together ourselves. But if we're not careful, rules and boundaries can easily turn into legalism.
Yeah.
And then we end up setting standards for ourselves that we can't ever keep.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the difference between the law and the grace, right? And it's like that shift that's required from rules to relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I need the structure. I need the people around me early on to tell me what to do. I need to stay away from all those people that are smoking cigarettes at the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
But then there's this spot where, like, you can't live a Teen Challenge rule book in the real world.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know what I'm
That's
saying?
what I was doing. Trying to.
We were in Long Island. In our program, you couldn't even talk to women.
Yeah.
Like, it was that tight. Like, we're a little looser here at SBTC. We do stuff at the table. We let people have conversations. You know, it's not as tight as that.
Right.
But at Long Island, you couldn't even talk to them. You couldn't look at them.
Yep.
So when I got home, started dating and, like, interested and engaged with my wife, like, I was awkward as heck, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I can't look at her. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's so strange. But there is that, man. You make a good distinction there. You use the word boundaries, and I really like that. One of the phrases that I like to use about Teen Challenge is that Jesus is the program.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, what does that mean to you, right? And what does that look like day to day?
Jesus is the program. Like Jesus in my everyday life.
Let me phrase it. Teen Challenge. People ask, what's the model for Teen Challenge? Well, how is it different than other recovery programs? Typically, my response is, Jesus is the program.
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
So absolutely. I mean, you're exactly right. Like I said earlier, you know, I've been to, I can't even count how many rehabs and stuff in the past. And all of it came down to me having to do all this on my own, on my own strength, you know. Whereas, you know, my first program around, you know, I figured out halfway through that it's like, it's not on my own strength. Like, I'm surrendering this addiction to God. I'm giving this to God.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't have to carry this baggage around anymore. I don't have to carry the weight of my shame and my guilt. I don't have to carry those things that I've done. Yes, I'm not proud of them, but that's not who I am. And the Bible talks clearly about Jesus and his forgiveness. And, you know, once I surrendered all that stuff and I really started walking in who God really is, man, it was a life changer. And I mean, you know, that's the whole model for Teen Challenge in the program is it's not the little rules and the making your bed every day and stuff like that. Yeah, that stuff's important, but the model of it is when you walk out those doors that Jesus is in your heart. And
That's good.
so because if Jesus is in your heart and you keep him there daily, you're not going to fail. Yeah. You may fall down and scrape your knee once or twice or bump your head. I mean, we're going to be doing that the rest of our life. But Jesus is the key to it all. Yeah. He'll pick us up, dust us off, and it's all right, buddy. Keep it going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so if you had to, over the last 6 months, if you had to pinpoint a breakthrough moment for you where that became real, what would you describe that? Whether it be, I mean, whatever happened, whether it be through your worship, prayer, word, or just something completely that I didn't even mention. If there was a breakthrough moment the last 6 months, what would that be?
So a breakthrough moment, I would have to say there were several, you know, I wouldn't say this time it wasn't a go to an altar and kneel down and then boom, I had this big lightning bolt that came down and everything was fixed. But it was just in the daily seeing new guys come in, seeing the brokenness and the reminder of what God brought me out of, because I'm bad about getting caught up in the dailies, checking the boxes, and I'm quick to forget where God brought me from, or I'm quick to forget where I was just 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And man, it's not that I want to see anyone hurt or broken or hurting, but when you see those guys come in and with their mess, and it's such a big reminder. It's like, Lord, wow, I was just there 3 months ago, and look where I'm at now. I'm giving my testimony at a church, or you know what I mean. And I think that's why it's so important to journal and keep those little, I call them trophies, if you will, or whatever, something that you can look back on when you're having a bad day or you're going through something, and you can say, wow, I was just in prison a year ago, and now I'm leading a Bible study or whatever. And it's like, it's crazy that my mind can forget stuff like that, but that's huge,
Yeah, it's good. That's why it's so important.
And it's not me, it's all God,
Yeah, it's really good. I think that's why it's so important for us to stay connected to mission, right? And
Yeah.
purpose. And like doing things, like even today we're here, like you're right, homeless outreach, y'all are serving and whatnot, and beyond TC, like finding those moments to connect. And I think it's the juxtaposition of I was lost and now I'm found.
Yeah.
And I see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see the lostness, and I'm like, man, it brings about a gratitude.
Yeah.
And I love how you said just now, I wouldn't say it was a breakthrough moment. It was moments.
Yeah.
And like how important is that for people to see the moments rather than looking for a big moment?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very important.
Yeah. So, man, just to close up this section of the conversation, let me say it again because they don't know that it's just a section. Just to close up this section of the watermelon, cantaloupe, watermelon. And just to close up the conversation, Rocco, final words, man. If you could speak directly to a mom or a dad that may feel like it's too late for their kid, what do you say to them?
I would say this because my mother has told me time and time again, but those prayers that they pray that they think aren't reaching heaven, they are. And I know for a fact my mom's prayers are the reason I'm sitting here. Because she's prayed for me all my life. And my whole family, my grandmother, both my grandmas, and those prayers are so important because, families get to a point to where they can't, there's nothing that they can do. There's nothing else. They've tried everything. They've done everything. And that, you've got to leave it in God's hands and let him do what he does. And so I would tell any mother out there struggling, those prayers are the most powerful thing that you can do for your loved one. And not to focus on in our timing, but God's timing.
Yeah.
Because, my mom prayed for almost 20 years before I came to the Lord, and those prayers are important, man.
Yeah, it's powerful. Well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you sitting down and chatting.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
It's been a good conversation.